Sri Lanka has been well known for its family-oriented values and practices. However, according to recent data, number of children have to live away from their families. Global and national evidence shows that without an individual attention, emotional, social, and physical support, children are mostly likely to grow up with multiple challenges. Sri Lanka has laws, policies, and administrative regulations for vulnerable children. The government has undertaken both to promote rights of children and make child protection a key directive. However, there are many concerns that Sri Lanka has failed to ensure child rights or have a mechanism to provide justice to abused children. According to the data of National Child Protection Authority, over 10,000 cases are reported per year. More than 20,000 legal trials are pending.
United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children is very important. It's a landmark international instrument with regard to the protection and promotion of rights of the children. I am very happy to say Sri Lanka became a state party to this important convention. And accordingly, we have taken number of eye-opening steps to protect the best interest of the child, which is one of the underlying principles of the Child Rights Convention. Also, we have to recognize the right to participation of the children. Their voices should be given an important voice, and we should give a fair hearing to them. Now, when we take the Constitution of 1978 of Sri Lanka, we find Article 12 guarantees the right to equality of all in the country. But we know practically it is not that easy to protect and promote the right to equality of each and every person, including children. Therefore, the same Constitution in Article 12, paragraph 4, it is asserted that the rights of children, women and the disabled person should be protected and guaranteed, and for that purpose, special laws, special affirmative actions can be taken. I appreciate this provision. However, when it comes to practice, despite the developments happen in the penal code and the amendments introduced to the penal code in 1995 and 2005 and many other statutory provisions by way of ordinances, statutes and amendments to the existing statutory law, still the protection of children remains a daunting challenge.
Then comes the children who are vulnerable. Those are children who are street children, children in orphanages, and those days we had child soldiers, and those days we had child servants. Of course, the problem of child servants was solved mainly because of the action of the NCPA during my period, when we went in and made sure that there were no children who were employed with, of course, a change in the law. So that is one of the most successful effects of child protection in this country. And we have enough laws. The 1995 Penal Code Amendment number 22 is more than enough, or in fact I feel it's partly draconian in a way, and maybe it may have to be changed to some extent, but it is more than enough to make people accountable.
Sri Lanka has enough laws and regulations to protect our children. But without an accountable system or good monitoring method, how can we ensure their rights?
I think impunity or lack of legal enactment is probably the biggest problem we have in this country. If we have a law, we have to be accountable to the law. The law is not effective because if you take child abuse, it's like the iceberg. Most of it is hidden. Children don't talk about it. Parents don't want to talk about it. There is police inaction, and then prosecution is delayed, and delayed prosecution means delayed justice. In other countries, when they take up a case of child abuse, they hear it continuously till the end of the case. They don't postpone. In our country, it is postponed not for weeks, but not for months, but years. And by that time, either the child is about to get married or this person is married and has children. And how can they go and face a court case? And they don't come. So as a result of that, law is inactive.
Dr. Tushita Manayaka is sharing her personal experience regarding child abuse in Sri Lankan school system.
I was almost compelled into this area because of a personal tragedy that happened to my own 11-year-old daughter, having been subjected to corporal punishment in an international school at the beginning of 2018. She subsequently went on to have mental illness as well. So when I tried to do something to protect my child, I realized that the entire system is corrupted. The entire system is confusing. We then get ostracized in our communities, we get cornered, and we get discriminated, especially the child, which becomes even more serious then. Rather than the physical punishment, they then end up being mentally unwell. Hence, we have no option but to seek justice from the international community. And the very first case against the government of Sri Lanka for failing to uphold the rights of a young citizen and to failing to protect its young citizen has been taken and filed at the United Nations Human Rights Commission.
Child rights and child abuse are interconnected. They are not separating from each other. When child rights are broken or violated, a child is abused. So we can't talk about child rights without mentioning child abuse.
Now, child abuse comes in many forms: physical abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, and negligence. All those aspects comprises child abuse. Right? Out of that, I think what we usually don't talk about in our culture is child sexual abuse. Child is not a developed adult. His brain is under development. The psychosexual development is happening in a child, okay? Not fully formed. Such a child cannot comprehend or understand what is being done to him or her fully. In very simple language, if a child is raped, now people may think that is sexual abuse. Yes, that amounts to very serious sexual abuse, all right. However, showing a child some pornography, talking sexual stuff with a child, or texting, or we say sexting in today's language, all those things are also amounts to child sexual abuse.
So I think it is important when you address issues of child abuse, you have to consider knowledge of parents, teachers, as well as children and professionals such as doctors and psychologists, and you have to improve their knowledge in dealing and preventing child abuse. On the other hand, you need to develop skills of all these people, including parents, children, professionals. Children, how to escape abuse. Parents, how to prevent abuse of children. And then when it comes to professionals, how to address issues of how to counsel children, and also legal officers who will defend these children in a court of law.
Sex education is playing a major role in preventing child abuse. In sex education, we have to give facts. But in a country like Sri Lanka, the word sex is a taboo. So we have to be culturally sensitive.
Cultures are man-made. I mean, they evolve. They don't just stagnate in one place. Cultures have to evolve. And we are in 2020 now. I believe the culture should evolve slowly to a healthy sexual nation, because we don't talk about them openly, but our children are being abused secretly. I mean, sex education doesn't mean you go and teach these little kids how to do, sexual intercourse for that matter. It's about giving them the correct term. If a 3-year-old doesn't know what to say to his penis, right? But he knows what to say to his nose. He knows nose is nose, ear is ear. 9.6% is less than 10 years old out of the abused children. So sex education should start at a very early age, but of course, age appropriate, psychosexual development appropriate.
If child abuse is not addressed properly, it would end up being a social crisis.
We have found that today's abuse become tomorrow's abusers. In other words, we have found that children who are physically violated are the children who become violent in youth and as violent adults, which is across the board, all over the world. Studies have shown this is also positive in this country. Therefore, it is important that we rehabilitate these people, and the rehabilitation is due to counseling. And counseling is basically either fairly well trained counselors or psychologists, clinical psychologists, who will take the responsibility of rehabilitating these children. Unfortunately, counseling is not even recognized as a profession in the Ministry of Health of this country for various reasons. People are worried about psychologists coming into a specialist field. But I think in other countries it is important, and they have enough psychologists and counselors in their countries to prevent today's abuse becoming tomorrow's abusers.